Hello, hi Claire.
Hello, Vincent.
Um,
We've both come from the cube. Were
yes, we
they
both
talking
come.
any sense? I noticed you were there for a bit. I tried to record it because for some reason Jack Star invited me, and I thought, okay, I'll give him a chance, and I'll even record the conversation, and then I just couldn't stand it anymore.
Oh God, with Jack Star, um, it's almost abusive what they're doing with Jack Star because, uh, first of all, okay, he's schizophrenic drug addict, but the thing is, I do think he plays up his schizophrenia to entertain people. I don't think he's as schizophrenic as he makes himself seem. But if he is that schizophrenic, it's almost like abusive and exploitative, to be recording him doing meth and, making fun of him.
Yeah. And anyway, he has nothing interesting to say. I mean, I know there have been plays made of people who suffer from Alzheimer's, and
They've been what?
they
Having people who suffer from Alzheimer's on?
yeah, they become the subject of plays or characters in plays, and it's kind of, well, okay, I know somebody who said, I, I visit my mother in her home, but she doesn't even know who I am, and when I call her mum, she gets upset and insists that I call her by her Christian name because in her mind, she's she's a young woman who hasn't yet married. And that's what she thinks. And obviously, she's alarmed that a middle aged woman is calling her mum. And she tells me to stop. So I can see that interesting conversations can arise out of these situations. But Jack Star doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I
And
mean, has he
he does,
said anything? I mean, okay, just to be, to give him a chance because maybe I don't give him enough of my time and try to,
no,
see what he's
well, the
saying.
first time that you came in and you met him and you said, "Who's he?" And then he started talking, it was total rubbish. And I just cut him off and I said, "Claire, I mean, he makes no sense. He's schizophrenic." And we discussed in there with the cube that, they're not serious. And for a while, Jack Star was their star. I mean, they thought he was the cat's meow. And it was nothing but schizophrenic ranting, and then they started saying, "Oh, he knows so much about the occult." He doesn't know anything about shit. It just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, and Lewis Wayne thinks there's something out, that there's something to it, and eventually this mess will become, I don't know, wine or something. I mean, that seems to be what George and Lewis are hoping that, they're saying, oh, there's all these sort of eccentrics, and, if we make them join the cube, it's gonna. Mind you, I kind of like that Q&A thing that George recorded of me. Did you see that? The kind of word association thing that
Well,
he was doing.
I saw there was a stream with you, and I went to that stream, and I was just saying I felt bad for you because it was just, it was them being idiots and assholes, and not really taking it seriously and not even asking serious questions. And this was supposed to be a dissection of secular Quranism, and their whole thesis against it, and they just weren't serious.
Well, they just got distracted, including John Vance, who's mentally ill. But anyway, I kind of enjoyed the word association game, and it was nice and short. It was only 30 minutes, so people might listen, do it from beginning to end.
What is a word association game?
That was the meet Claire Core thing that I mentioned.
Oh, Yeah, I went to it. I went to it.
And well, anyway, I enjoy the word association thing, but and some of the questions. Well, yes, somebody called Geralt. I mean, he's so annoying. You know, he asks me a question and then he doesn't want to hear the answer and he wants to ask the next question.
Yeah,
You
well,
know, and then he doesn't
I
get anything.
refuse. I refuse to talk to Geralt because whatever I say to him, he misinterprets it, doesn't understand it, and responds with something that has nothing to do with what I said.
And this is the sort of people Stephen panders to. It's so sad. I mean, he is an intelligent young man, but he just has to lower himself to get these retards interested in what he's saying. And you know, it's actually dishonorable, but you know, maybe that's the only way he can make money. You know, in this line of business, if you can call it a business, it's just like, yeah, just give me your money, retards. You know, I'll just keep giving you the same old shit that you like.
Yeah.
I mean, Geralt, I mean, I don't even know if he's really that stupid or if he's just pretending to be. I genuinely don't know. And you know, and it's a usual, oh, why aren't you Muslim? Why didn't you go back to Muslim land? And, you know, and that's it. You know, we can almost predict their next response. And Stephen panders to them. Oh yes, and okay, he's getting a bit of, you know, transatlantic recognition through Duvid and Luke, who, you know, talks to him. And do you know what Luke is doing now? He's promoting Adderall.
What?
Yeah.
What? Because these boys can't think?
Well, he's saying he's on it and he's doing fine. So he's promoting a psychotropic drug to these, well, damaged but still, you know, yeah. I mean, he's doing these things. I had a word with Elliot, and Elliot, you know, doesn't exactly agree.
With who? Elliot? Oh, Elliot Blatt?
Yes,
He's Jewish, right?
yes, but he's not really Jewish. I mean, he just pretends, you know, with blessings and all that. But no, you know, he's not a practicing Jew. But I mean, you know, he's one of Luke's, you know, regular loyal subscribers. And Luke was talking to Stephen about Adderall and saying how much it has improved his concentration and whatever.
Well, I think Adderall has its place. Um, I don't necessarily think it's something everyone should be on, but you know, well, this just sounds.
Well, it just sounds evil. I mean, I know that there's a kind of move to say, hey, why don't we get all our psychiatric patients drop to drop acid and then see how they like it? Yay! I mean, they pretend, oh, it'll be done under controlled, you know, conditions and all that. It's like, what's the point of, you know, whatever thing that they think they understand while they're tripping? It doesn't, you know, it won't be taken seriously by other people, and you know they'll soon forget about it.
What was I going to say? Oh God, I forgot it. But yeah, I mean, oh, I was going to say that for depression, I was going to try ketamine therapy. I don't know if they have that in the UK, but in America, everyone's taking ketamine now.
Well, it can kill you if you
Not
take
in
too
the
much.
doses that they give you. It's not. I mean, it's controlled substance, and you do it in controlled environment.
Well, I know somebody who died of it, and he was a young person. But look, I mean, nothing is permanent if you think you arrived at, a state of enlightenment when you're high on drink or drugs. You can say, I mean, probably you won't even remember it. So it's not permanent and it's not valid. So if you want to, arrive at this sort of wonderful feeling of oneness with God, um, I mean, getting high on drugs is a very temporary thing. I mean, it's even debatable that enlightenment is something that you kind of is it a destination, your final destination that you arrive at, or is it just some temporary, thing which is like the light switching on and then going off again, and it must be the latter. It's like, yes, we can think, Eureka, I think I've solved the problem, and maybe you do go on and solve the problem, but then another one pops up. And so we need to be in a state of sobriety and rationality to deal with our problems. And if we want, the occasional experience of transcendence, we will have to do it, without drugs. But of course, the pharmaceuticals would love to push us onto us all kinds of drugs. And I think people on psychotropic drugs, I don't think they need to change their behavior. It's like, well, maybe psychic pain is necessary to make us push us into some kind of conclusion about how we are leading our lives. But if we can dope ourselves away from it, then we will never solve it. Because the pain won't be enough for us to think, this is so terrible, it has to stop, what am I doing wrong, how can I correct myself, and this sort of thing. Not, oh, I'll try a different kind of pill tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know. I was going to put in that gaymilitant.blogspot.com manifesto about responsible drug use. I mean, I was going to say drug use is part of the gay community, but I was also going to say, you know, it has to be ritualized and, it has to be done responsibly. And, I was actually going to say we actually have a weakness when it comes to taking too much drugs. But instead of just trying to go drug free, we should just accept that we're into drugs and, but do it properly. Only do it once a month or once a week at most, and do it, get clean stuff and use, don't.
Ration yourself and only do it at the weekends and stuff like that. Yes, I understand. It's a bit like licensing hours. But what I fear is that our ruling classes are on these bloody psychotropic drugs. That is what I suspect. That most of them are bipolar or depressed or suicidal, and they take these drugs and they can't work shit out because they're on drugs. This is what I think is happening.
um Yeah, well, people have us. So in the Book of Revelations in the Bible, it says that the leaders in the end times will fool people and trick people through sorcery. But the word sorcery is pharmakeia, which means drug use. So a lot of people believe that this expansion in psychotropic medication is the predicted sorcery that's being used to keep us all going in a system that we would otherwise collapse. Like, I mean, I do think that maybe like it's getting to the point where you need medication in order to survive in this type of environment.
I'm not. I'm not on medication. Are you?
I'm on antidepressants, yeah.
Oh, you said you were taking a different kind of thing. No,
Oh,
recently.
I'm taking antidepressants.
And how long have you been taking them?
Years.
And do you ever sort of miss a day or something?
No, I don't. No, I don't miss days. Actually, wait, did I take them today? Yes, I did take them today. Um
What,
Um,
have you ever tried not taking them for a while to see what happens, to see if you feel any different?
um, no, because I don't want to try doing that. I mean, uh, they help a little bit, so I don't want to come off of them.
Sorry, you said you take, what, both of them? You have two clients?
Yeah,
Um, so you were feeling really bad before you took them?
yeah, I still feel really bad, but I mean,
You sound
yeah,
okay.
huh?
I mean, I wouldn't think, oh, you're. I mean, I know you are seeing a therapist, but well, I mean,
Which I get,
you're the sanest person I'm talking to.
let's talk about that. Like, um, I got mad at my therapist because so I got a homophobic attack. This fucking Hindu was like, "Oh, you just left Hinduism because you're gay and nobody accepted you," and blah blah blah. So I was like really upset. So okay, and I was also reading these statistics that younger people are more homophobic than the older generation. Like Gen Z is more homophobic. So I was like, you know what, homophobia is spreading and like, things can get bad. And he told me I had exaggerated anxiety. He's like, oh, it can never happen. Gay marriage can never be overturned and this and that and blah 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 blah. And he's like, you have exaggerated anxiety. And I said, excuse me. I said, gay people have been fucking killed throughout centuries and the law has been against them. And like we have a little bit of power right now, but homophobia is spreading and you're telling me to be not worried? Do you tell Jews not to be worried about spreading anti-Semitism?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, have, are you saying you have suffered a homophobic attack?
Yes, I did.
What people getting physically violent?
No, no, just homophobic verbal attack.
Okay.
Did you see? Oh, you saw? Did you see the article on Ron Banerjee, that Hindu that was choking, that was choking the gay rights activist? Did you see
Yes, I
that?
did. I did. Yes.
Okay, Ron Banerjee is a fucking asshole, right wing Hindu who lives in Canada, and he's anti-Muslim and he's anti-Sikh, but he's pro-Jewish and he's homophobic. And I used to work with him before he let me know he was homophobic before I turned against Hinduism. But
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of crazy and he does crazy stuff. And he did grab a gay rights activist by the neck.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't look good for him. I think that will, forever haunt him. But he sounds a very unpleasant character anyway. And even if he hadn't done that, I'm sure he's done loads of things that would, make him not exactly the best candidate to be in a responsible position. I mean, it's almost as if like, well, why shouldn't I grab him by the throat? Why? Why not? Because he's gone, right? So I can grab him by the throat, sort of thing.
Well, I mean, that was not a good idea and it got him negative publicity.
Yeah, yeah, and people will never forget about it because it's like, well, you can do that to somebody, um, just in broad daylight and do not think anything of it. What are you gonna do if you thought you could get away with it when you are in a position of power and have power to abuse?
Yeah. Um, but it wasn't a good idea. And now, so I used it. My new shtick is that, uh, uh, you know, Hindus are homophobic and misogynistic and all that other kind of stuff. And I used him as an example of like, here's homophobic Hindu. Well, I mean, to the point that they're choking gay people.
Mm-hmm. But I suppose you can say that anti-Semitism is increasing because they are because they're perceived to be, well, part of the establishment, and people hate their own political establishment, and that's why the Jews are getting it in the neck. And I bet they think, well, what are we supposed to do? You know, we're following faithfully the what our political masters, our Christian overlords tell us to do. We're doing what they want us to do. What the hell? Why do they still hate us? And it's like they can't understand that 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 the Gentiles hate their own leaders. It's so obvious, it's so basic, but they don't understand it. And did I tell you recently I saw on LinkedIn this post that said the job of mainstream media is to make the public believe that the views of 10% of the people are 80% of the people.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I was thinking, well, what about this other 10% that is not mentioned? And I suppose it would be the permanently undecided. But anyway, the point is that I've forgotten what the point was. Why are we talking about this?
But the point is that to get people to believe that, with the hold on one second.
We were talking about Ron Banerjee and what a terrible person he is, and he that. Okay, I think we're generally saying that most of our ruling classes are on psychotropic drugs. That's what we're saying, right? That's what we're really saying. So we've solved the problem. We know what's going on. And actually, recently I was talking about mental illness in the people I know. It's like, well, and there's a lot of it about. I mean, my mother says there's a lot of mental illness about, and she doesn't even live in the same country as me.
Wait, give me one second. I just need to get something.
Two people watching. I guess one of them is me, but that's okay. I can usefully sum up what Vincent and I have been talking about, which is that people are mad, they're neurotic, they're mentally ill, they're taking psychotropic drugs, and we get people like Luke Ford encouraging them to do so. Vincent himself is on psychotropic drugs. And maybe, maybe people need to come off these drugs in order to think rationally and stick to their guns. Because I mean, the only thing that's real going on in your mind is if you're sure that what you feel is really what you feel, and not the effects of any drug that is there to control your mood. And why
Yeah,
do we feel that?
interesting that I want to go back to this idea of pharmaceutical drugs being sorcery, and that's what Carol Balizette said. Carol Balizette
Ah,
cult.blogspot.com.
yes, yes.
You don't like her.
Well, I kind of see. I mean, I've heard people say avoid doctors and hospitals. Just avoid them like the plague, because they have well, bad intentions, right? They have bad intentions, and actually, I know somebody who I suppose could be described to be affluent, and she was terrified of her husband who fell ill going to hospital because they thought that they're going to just make him undergo every single test and say that all these that there are all these things wrong with him and clean us out and charge us for everything. That's what she was afraid of. And so she might agree with Carol Balizette.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't. I guess I don't know what happens when people take it that far. You know what I mean? Like, but it's happening. I mean, people are real. Look, if people are believing in flat Earth and people, okay, like what's his name? You know who Lucky is in the cube, right?
Sorry, what did you say?
Do you know who Lucky is in the
Nope,
cube?
nope.
Lucky is this Canadian who's part Arab, part Romanian, part white, and has complexes about race and stuff like that. Um,
No, I
um,
don't, but tell me more.
well, he doesn't believe viruses exist.
I mean, okay, why do people sort of take these positions? Because, it's like there are already enough things to be arguing about without finding some imaginary issue that nobody thought of arguing about. Like the Earth is flat, or there are no nukes, or that kind of thing. Why?
I
It's
don't
it's a
know. I don't know. I mean, AI thinks that it's a strategy. She thinks they're being disingenuous. I was talking to AI about it, and she basically told me they're just doing it to be anti-establishment and
to
attack.
show
And
hatred for government. Isn't that it? To say that everything that you've told us, um, well, we think it's lies, including the moon landings, nuclear bombs, and all that. And it's just a kind of passive way of showing hatred. We think everything you told us is a lie, and it doesn't even have to make sense because we're prepared to believe any evil of you, and that's a position. And I've noticed that in in the UK, there are apparently educated middle class men who argue about, oh, like, did Shakespeare really write his plays? And, you know, and it's like, why are you arguing about this when there are more important things to argue about?
well,
And,
because they
and
don't, yeah, they don't want to argue about the important things. They don't want, people don't want to be bothered. People don't, what? It's just everywhere I go, I get so angry. Nobody wants to be upset about anything. And so people just ignore everything because it's all over the psychology. I get angry with my psychologist all the time because just not, you're just supposed to tune everything out so you're never upset.
okay, how I do it. Okay, I don't think, I mean, I think I enjoy very good mental health because I let it out. The moment I see it, I just give that person a huge chunks of my mind, and I think I it helps me. It's better out than in, and I think well other people don't enjoy this ability to do it either because they're afraid of being doxxed or whatever, and or they can't express themselves, and that's why they keep it in, and that's why they get angry and then angry at each other and argue about other things. And I've noticed, you may remember Jacob Farturecci, and he hosts these streams, and it's full of white middle class Americans identifying as Christian, and they don't want to talk politics. So what they do, I've noticed, is that they they reveal a lot of personal information about themselves and try to pull rank on each other using their victimhood, you know and I mean that's how it kind of goes bad, this desire to pull rank. I mean, okay, in a way, we sort of understand. We need to know where we are in the pecking order of our friends. And we try out things to see if it works, if people submit to us or if we submit to them or whatever. And I think it's an innate psychological need. And I think Muslims kind of have it, do it in a more healthy way, because it's like, yeah, we're all Muslims, but which of us is more Islamic than the others? And then they basically do what is called takfiring each other, which is calling each other out for their wrong thing, and declaring each other heretics or guilty of some incorrect conception of God. And I think that is actually more healthy, even though, Carol, would, if it were in her power, want to ban this sort of thing. But I think, well, at least it's a rational way of establishing pecking order amongst Muslims. I
What
mean,
is?
calling each other heretics.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I'm a better Muslim because I understand, what this verse is about or what that law is for, blah blah blah, and actually, I would want to encourage that, but obviously in a non-violent way. It can be just a kind of, well, a parlor game or whatever, without people, saying, getting violent, because it's like, it's just a conversational game. So, I mean, I would rather people do that than say, "Oh, I'm such a victim." It's like my son is autistic. Oh well, you think you've got it bad. Both my both my sons are autistic. I hear these things all the time, and it's like, well, I wouldn't be boasting about it if any of my children were autistic. I wouldn't, be, but they do. It's a very feminine thing. And unfortunately, the men are also adopting it,
Well, I don't know if they're
and making
bragging
themselves.
about having autistic children. I think maybe they're, trying to, um, they're trying to, make it not so much as a shame thing.
Well, they get special treatment, right? If well, in the UK, if your kid, I mean, they even have a verb called, it's called statemented. So if you get a statement from the doctor or something that your child has special needs, the school is obliged to, well, provide, the facilities to cater for its special needs. And I thought, well, in the olden days, you just, you just get your kids sent to, a special school for retards or something, instead of, holding back the education of the normal children. Everything's gone crazy, and it's been crazy for a while. It's just gotten crazy now. Crazy. It seems crazier now because all the unintended consequences of these silly policies have had time to take effect. That's what's been happening. And it's like it's time to say no. No, you're not going to pull rank on me because your children are retards. You should be ashamed. You should withdraw your children and take it to retard school instead of, holding back the education of the normal children. So fuck off instead of pulling rank on us.
Yeah. Pulling rank for what? Say it again. Pulling rank for what?
Pulling rank by saying, "Oh, my child has special needs. It needs somebody to, some adult to follow it around because it has Down syndrome or whatever." You know. I mean, they can say, "Oh, it's special needs because it's mentally deficient, or it's special needs because it's so clever and special." It's like, actually, you don't want your child statemented because then it'll be a freak and all the other children will hate it.
Well, okay, that shouldn't be happening either.
And
You
I'm
know.
afraid, you would know because you're not a parent. And this is kind of the thing that, because so many people are not parents, that they don't know and they don't care because it doesn't directly affect them. And a lot of things have been left to slide. And I think, many families don't really discuss politics with each other. I mean, in the olden days, I mean, the younger generation just had to listen to what their even though they disagreed with the political views of their elders, they had to shut up. And the only way they can try to make their, disagreement clear is to ask questions. And that is the quickest way of showing your elder that, maybe they're talking nonsense if they can't answer your question without, sounding stupid. So, instead of, calling them assholes and, swearing at them and slamming the door as you leave the room because you can't stand, their views anymore. But anyway, there were ways of dealing with it, and the perception of hierarchy helps. It's sort of like, well, so and so is my boss, and he's doing something I don't agree with. I can't just sort of call him an asshole. I'll have to in some other more subtle way, make him question his belief about whatever. And maybe just doing this makes us smarter instead of throwing ourselves on the floor and having a tantrum, or reporting them for hate speech, which I think is kind of what people are doing now.
Yeah, it depends on what I do think that gay children should be taken away from parents that are like teaching them that it's wrong to be gay.
Oh, I mean, you can have a debate about that, but I mean, it's all about what you. Well, I think it should be okay for parents to say, well, this is what we've done. This is what normal people do. You'll just have to go along with it as long as you stay, as long as you live under your parents' roof. And when you're old enough to get yourself a job and move out, then you can go and do your thing. But in the meantime, while you live under your parents' house, you have to toe the line. I mean, I think that's fair enough.
No, it's abusive. You can't abuse. There's abuse that children get taken out of homes, not just for parents telling them they can't be gay, but you can mentally abuse your children in other ways that the state would remove them. And so to tell your children if they're gay, they can't be gay is, mental abuse. I also think that, at a certain age, if a child feels they're being abused by the church, so let's say you're a girl and you're going into mosque and they're telling you, that, you have to be submissive to men. And if you're a girl who feels that this is totally inappropriate and is psychologically damaging you, I think that, you should be able to escape your household.
Well, it's all about the status of these rules, right? So if you were under secular Quranism, they'd have to say, well, there's a law against this sort of behaviour. So anybody doing this would be a sex offender, and we won't have sex offenders telling us what to do. And in the case of the girl would be pointed to the verse, talking about men being a degree above. Women because they provide and protect for them. So, she would have to come under the authority of her husband or her father. And if she doesn't like it, she'll just have to wait to grow up and marry and or find somewhere else to live
Yeah, no,
and
it's
whatever.
abusive. It's abusive to
Well,
tell.
everything is abusive. I mean,
It
you're
depends.
just saying everything you disagree with is
No,
abusive.
there's if there's something that you cannot change about yourself and it's innate in you, and you're being told that somehow that is lesser or wrong or less dignified, then you're being abused.
Well, it being gay would have the effect of making you um, less effective at becoming a married father, for example. And you have, I mean, there's no denying that. It's like, well, a woman's not going to marry a gay man, and therefore you are less marriageable. And this is a fact of life, but it's like, well, but
Well, not
nobody's forcing
anymore.
you
I
to
mean,
marry.
no. I mean, no. You can't do that. At least as far as I'm concerned, and soon I'm sure the UK government will make that you know law because of the way the UK is going. And, I do believe in breaking up Muslim families. I do believe that it's actually, we should purposely do this in order to destroy Islamic society in Britain. We should make it so that the gay boys and the lesbians and the girls can go to the state and say, I'm being abused, and put me in a foster home or put me in a state home. I'd rather grow up in a poor state home than in my own household, and just tear these families apart and make Muslims think, well, maybe I don't want to have children because they could just escape me.
Okay, so you actually want to lower the birth rate,
Of Muslims.
but you're doing it to your own people.
No, I would do it. Look, liberal people are not teaching their girls that they're lesser, and they're not teaching their gays sons that they're sinners. So, they wouldn't have their children taken away from them. It would only be religious communities that got their children taken away from them.
So you would have liked to have been taken away from your family
Yes,
and
of
taken
course.
into a care home?
Of course. Of course that should have happened.
But
I don't, I have a very low threshold for what is like, tolerated when it comes to child abuse. And, no, I shouldn't have been left in my home. It was worse for me to be raised in my household than it would have been if I was raised in a state home. At least then, I mean, look, everyone's like, oh, you would be sexually abused. I would be under constant watch, and there would be like 50 people in a facility. It would be very hard to like take me into a room and rape me, without anyone finding out.
but don't people who have been brought up in care homes complain about being sexually abused?
I don't know if statistically you're more likely to be abused in a care home than you are in your own home or in a foster home.
Well,
You
I
know, I
think that we can look it up, but I mean, it's always the people in foster homes and care homes who most complain, and you can't really prove it otherwise, can you? Not really. And it's like, well, if you're a sex predator, you're not going to, follow the kid into its parents' home and sexually abuse it there. If you like that sort of thing, you'd probably be wanting to work a job as a care worker.
I think it's very hard to sexually abuse people in that type of setting because there's just so many people, and also you're not their parent, so you can't really, you don't lord them, you're not there with them 24/7, you're not there to brainwash them not to tell anyone. Like, as soon as you leave the room, another care worker comes in, and it would be very easy for people to tell on each other and spy on each other in these types of.
Oh, I suppose you'd say, well, it's just between you and me, kid, and I do give you these nice treats.
Well, parents do that too. Let's see what the statistics are. Let me look it up.
I'm sure it's shocking. I mean, it's like, well, any sex predator would go and get a job in the care home. Why wouldn't they? Hello, effluent for you. 3 watching now. Wonderful.
Okay, 34% of children are raped by family members, 7% are raped by strangers. Um, okay, wait. Um, okay, well, we know that the vast majority of children are raped by family members, and fewer of them are raped by strangers. So I think that proves that you're more likely to be raped by your family than by someone you don't know.
Well, can I have the link then so I can look at it properly? Because I know you are biased on the subject. And the thing is, you can't prove that, in a parallel life, if you had been taken into care, you wouldn't have been abused and, whatever. And that your life wouldn't be worse. I mean, not that it's bad at the moment, but I'm saying, it's like we don't know. It's like maybe I should have married, A instead of B.
It's in
And
the
I would have
private
had
chat.
different. Pardon?
It's in the private chat, the link.
Okay. But the thing is, you know, okay, it doesn't convince me, all right.
Okay,
It
well, you
doesn't.
are more likely to be molested by either a family member or a spouse of a family member, or a relative.
And okay, anyway, this is only a sample. What people don't understand is that obviously, the statisticians do not have access to all the people who've been abused. They don't. So it's only a sample, and we don't know how representative the sample is.
Okay, actually, this one says 8 out of 10 people are raped by someone who is known to the victim. And it seems like out of that vast majority of them, okay, 19.5% of people are raped by a stranger.
Okay, well, I mean, have you ever spoken to anybody who's been raped by, as a child, by
Well,
a
I think in,
stranger?
I think in foster homes it's um
I mean, the care worker would be known to the child. I mean, the
well, no,
correct
they're talking
word
about
to use is
relatives.
raped
Okay,
by
if
a
they
family member or raped by a non-family member.
okay,
That's a way to express it.
they designated the difference between family member and stranger. So there's only two categories, either stranger or a girlfriend or a boyfriend of a parent, um, an acquaintance, and a spouse. A boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse. It's someone usually in your home or a family friend.
Yeah, well, it does. I think most children will. Well, yeah, most people will just. I mean, it's only children who might think of being in a care home as something, a big adventure and better than being brought up by mum and dad. I mean, I think, adults would see it as a tragedy what ended up in a care home.
I wouldn't see it if they were a gay child being abused. I wouldn't see it as a tragedy. I would be very happy for that child. I mean, I told you I wish I had been taken out of my fucking abusive house. I mean, it's just people. Well, I don't know what it's like in Britain, and I'm sure it's a little bit better because it's better in Canada too. But in America, it's considered that no matter what, no matter if you've been raped, it's better to be with your real parents than it is to be in foster care. And that's why, in America, we have so many tragedies of children that were that were taken away from the parents and they go right back and they wind up dead. Like it's a big problem in America where we just give children back to anyone. And, in America, you have lots of parental rights and, children suffer. I mean, we have very high rates of, children being abused in their households and then going back.
Well, it happens in the UK too. I think over Christmas there was this kid being killed by its parents. But I mean, the thing is, people don't want to. They don't want to be bothered about it anymore, do they? I mean, it's like okay, two parents. Well, the couple could, conspire to murder their kid and say it was an accident, and then it doesn't show up, and nobody cares. It, they don't want to know. They would prefer to know that to think that these things don't happen. But the point is that the mother should be the one looking after the children. It should be other women looking after children, and maybe adolescent females should be chaperoned because it is adolescent females who are the most considered the most desirable because they are most likely to be virgins, and this attracts sex predators.
Who are mostly men, and mostly men that are either related to the girl or are a family friend.
But the point is, there is now a phenomenon of female teachers seducing their adolescent male students.
Yes, but that's of course more rare, and it always makes the news because it's such a rarity. Like, in America, it happens like once every 6 years, and like when it happens, it's like all over the media. It's such a huge thing because it's so rare.
Well, I don't. I think it's been encouraged really by movies and novels about the subject, and and then a suggestion that maybe the child enjoys it. People like Milo saying that he had a good time.
Yeah, I mean, look, just because not all statutory rape is violent. I mean, some of it is consensual. It's still statutory rape, but it's considered, I don't know if you get less of a sentence for it if it wasn't rape, but not every child is displeased.
Well, anyway, it's a grey area, and the point is that you have all this time to have sex as a young man or a young woman. So there's no need to rush it. And obviously, somebody much older having sex with somebody much younger is considered exploitative and abusive, even though the younger person enjoyed it, or found there to be benefit from it. And we also know that the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans practiced it, pederasty.
Yes, but I
And
mean,
their
I don't
societies
know how
collapsed.
accepted it. I don't know.
It obviously had a problem with the birth rate, because it's sort of like, well, I don't have to marry in my 20s. I'll just keep waiting, but in the meantime, I'll have same sex. And it's like, well, who wants babies anyway? This is more fun. So I think the practice of pederasty destroyed ancient Greece and ancient Rome. I mean, maybe there's not enough, literature or records that say that specifically, but in well, the Greeks are kind of known for doing that sort of thing, and so were the Romans, and we know that the Romans didn't particularly support marriage in the first from the time of the first emperor Augustus. And and over time there was a collapse of the Roman Empire. And I think it is to do with the birth rate. I mean, okay, maybe people haven't looked at it properly, but obviously, if you, look, I think even happily married couples would be horrified at the number of children they would have if every time they had sex they had a child. Who wants that? And probably the whole time of worshipping Moloch was about all these children born to parents who are even married to each other, saying we can't support all these children. We have to do something with them and get rid of them. And nobody wants to buy them, so we'll offer them to Moloch. But I don't think we can afford to keep separating the right to have recreational sex from being married to the person we're having recreational sex with. Because I think that must be the problem. And it's not just us. I'm saying it happened to the Greeks, it happened to the Romans, it happened to the Ottoman Empire. And it happens to all empires, because they think, for a while they think they're invincible, and then they think they can enjoy the fruits of their empire, which is to break a few rules, certainly breaking the rules you know, of marriage. And then by the time they notice that something's wrong, they can't even fix it anymore without changing their religion. And we know how difficult it is for people to admit that they are wrong. And we're expecting empires to admit that they're wrong. So, of course, the difficulty is, well, increased exponentially. I don't see how you can deny the correctness of my diagnosis anyway. And it will cost you nothing to admit that this is most probably the cause of the problem.
Well, I think if your plan is to keep heterosexuality the way it is, then no, then a free and liberal society is never going to last because the best of the women are just going to say, I want a job, I want a career, I want my own money, I want to get a PhD, and I want to have one or two kids. And, and then eventually the administrative liberal class is going to die out. And yes, you're going to immigrate people from foreign lands that are patriarchal, that have high birth rates, and you're just going to be destroyed. And so, if your model is keeping heterosexuals in power, no, you cannot sustain your government that
Yes,
way.
you
And
can.
I'm saying that if you invent artificial wombs, then you can have a liberal, sustained society, and everyone could just live free and happy and not have to live under draconian rules. But that'll never happen as long as you're relying upon women to have your babies.
Okay, you can promote that your political project, but I'm saying it's just easier for me to fix it my way, and you're saying yes, that's all I'm going to fix it my way when we invent artificial wombs. So okay, you can say that and call yourself a
I, I,
secular
I
cop.
don't think you're going to be able to change the mind of people in the West. You know,
Okay, we've both heard of CBT, right? We've heard of CBT and what it does. You're supposed to, think of this event that used to upset you and horrify you, and religion is exactly that. I bet you were surprised when I told you that Jews are actually supposed to thank God for suffering. They're supposed to thank God for their house burning down, for being kicked out of Israel, etc. They're supposed to. I know they don't, but that's one of the things that they're supposed to do that they don't. And so, religion is a kind of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's how you look at the event. It's how you interpret it. And if you think it means you have to do X rather than Y, and there is a whole lot of difference between X and Y in terms of its consequences, that there will be a difference of outcome. But I mean, the whole point of believing in God is that you're prepared to sort of not not have casual sex, get married, be good parents, and if most people in your society did that, then your society might become a powerful empire. But if you if your society says, "Oh, who cares about marriage? Just have sex with, whoever. What's the problem?" and then obviously you're not going to become a great empire. And if you were a great empire, you'd soon lose it. And this is the difference because those are opposite ends of behavior. One that respects marriage and the other one doesn't. So this is the difference between perception and action and outcome. And there's no escape from it. And it's like, well, it's like you don't have to do it. Nobody's going to force you to marry a woman and, you know, become a father. You can just theorize and get all the credit and say, well, it was actually a homosexual who said it first, who saw the light and said it first. Beat the heterosexuals who are so degenerate they can't think straight. But I, a homosexual, I can think straight and I have the courage to speak the truth as I see it. And thank God I'm not going to be forced to marry a woman and pay for her kids. But I respect men who do that, like my father. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do to present it properly. And you will be given credit, Vincent. And you will beat all those stupid white nationalists who laughed at you and mocked you. You will have your
Well,
revenge on them.
yeah. Oh, they're still going to mock me if I become a secular Quranist. They're going to just
Yeah, but you'll win
mock.
all the arguments. You'll win all the arguments. It's like, well, I still beat you. I, a homosexual, saw the point of how religion serves the interests of the nation. I saw it first. And you don't have to be marriageable in order to see the point of marriage. Even a reasonably bright child would be able to understand what I'm saying. Who's going to deny that it would be better for children to be brought up by their two biological married parents living together in a loving relationship? It's like, well, then they would have a personal investment in seeing that their child survives childhood and maybe becomes, somebody that they can be proud of. I mean, who doesn't want that when they spend so much money on their kids? I mean, we can tell that Rock Muncher is an incel. I mean, he can't see what I'm. Well, he understands enough of what I'm saying to accuse me of gaslighting you. But we know he's not marriageable. And I think it is, I don't know, almost, what's the word? Providential that the first serious secular Quranists, and I do consider Nourish to be serious, it's like he's Hindu. Wow. I mean, it's, you see, I think the immigrants actually have a sense, a more developed sense of self-preservation. It's like, well, if you've taken the trouble of crossing continents and oceans to get to the other place, it's like, well, I guess I have to have lots of children so people like me don't get absorbed into the culture, because that's not what we came here to do. We came here to, advance ourselves, not to lose our identity. And I guess they would have,
Well, too
more.
bad. Then don't come here. I wouldn't move to India and be like, I want to preserve my child's white identity. What the fuck am I going to India for?
Well, what about your ancestors who crossed the Atlantic from Europe? I mean, I'm sure they didn't think, oh, we'll just be gay or be, environmentalists.
Okay, well, then don't move here anymore. I mean, these people that they just hate white culture and they just want nothing, they want to be around us because we're liberal and we're nice and we tolerant and we let people do what the fuck they want. And that's why they want to be here. And then they
And
want to
because
change
you
it.
want cheap labour and you invited them in virtually. So, I mean, obviously, you've got to do something with your government doing what they're doing. But it's like, well, you guys won't have children. Where are we going to get the labour from? All these business organisations who pay our campaign funds, they want labour. And you guys are not prepared to work. You're just going to, loll around being gay, playing Xbox, and not marrying. Or if you do marry, you don't bring up your children properly. And we've got all these sort of, economic migrants who are gagging to come into the West.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what's going to happen and this is what's going on here. And I do agree that something has to change, but we don't need, traditionalist immigrants coming in here and saying, fuck you people. That really pisses me off that, they come here and they love informing white heterosexuals, like, oh, you have a big problem with these white gays. They tried, the thing you don't understand, the one thing that you'll never understand as a white gay man, minorities treat me much worse than they treat white heterosexuals. They are so jealous because they view themselves as above us, but they don't like we're on the same level as them. We're a rung down from heterosexuals, so we're about on the same level as non-white minorities. And they are absolutely vicious, and they want to get rid of us, and they do nothing but spread homophobia to get rid of us. They want to be the next second class citizen.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, I know heterosexual people who live in immigrant majority parts of London complaining that they are treated with contempt, these straight white guys, by the shop assistants who look down on them for not having the ability to do the work that they're doing, like work in a supermarket.
They absolutely despise us, and it's becoming more and more
Yes, and
apparent.
it's because you can't do these things yourselves. You have to invite them in, and when
We
you don't like
could
them in, you
no
can't get rid of them. You can't tell your ruling classes to get rid of them. You're so helpless, and that's why they have such contempt for you.
Yeah, I know. Well, I
Because
mean,
you are few in number, well, becoming fewer in number, and they know your government hates you.
yeah, I know this is a big
So you
problem.
have to correct yourselves, and unfortunately, it means that everybody, whoever, whatever their race, it's like, yeah, we've got work. We, you know, we, okay, gender relations and labour relations, they are crucial to the survival of your society, whatever your race, whatever your religion, wherever you are in the world, you need to manage those two things well, or there'll be trouble. It's not rocket science. But obviously, the price of labour is going to go up if there is a labour shortage.
Okay, Claire, without artificial wounds, who's going to be having these white
Okay,
children?
go and
Rock
promote your
Muncher is
artificial
Rock
wounds.
Muncher. Rock Muncher says he has one child. And this is the other thing.
Yeah,
I love
I
when
bet
the
he,
alt.
I bet he's not married to the mother.
Oh yeah, I love when the alt right says I have kids. Like it's like what, one or two when they do, and how many of them actually have kids? Like,
Well, I mean, are they even there as a father, or are they an absent father?
yeah, I know a lot of them would be absent fathers, don't live with the mother. Well, we know statistically 50%. So 50% of these men in the alt right who have children are divorced, right?
Hmm.
So 50% of their children are not living in, a double parent home. And
Yes, and they can't even face it. If we just presented that, them a perfectly decent woman of their own race, they wouldn't want to marry her. It's like, oh my God, I got to do all these things and worry about, getting a job, keeping a job, and they don't want to do it. And but every now and then, like Duvet, they'll just pretend to be sad that they can't find a woman, but they're just hoping that a woman won't find them. I can read their minds. I mean, look at Tubin. He doesn't want to get married. He just has enough self awareness to know that it's expected, and he remembers to occasionally express regret and sadness. I mean, if I bet he would never go on a date because, imagine if he went on a date and the woman seduced him, and then 3 months later turned up on his doorstep. I mean, it would be his worst nightmare. Oh, I think you'd be you'd be horrified too, wouldn't you? Well,
if
okay.
David went out on a date, no, I don't think David should be finding a girlfriend. I mean, it's just that, none of these men should be finding a girlfriend, and they're not going to, and that's just the end of it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that they actually don't want to find a girlfriend because it would, you know,
Rock Muncher wants to come on, but I'm not letting him on.
Look, I think marriage is kind of scary for heterosexual men who even want to do it. I mean, because I don't know if you've seen pictures of, weddings and things. And it's always a bride who looks, triumphant and glorious, and the man looking really rather nervous.
What's making him rather nervous?
Well, the prospect of being stuck with this woman that he'd married would make any man nervous. So I'm saying in wedding photos, the man always looks a bit, well, uneasy. And it's always been the way.
Horrible. Oh God, this is such a dystopian nightmare that heterosexuals create. You cannot live in freedom. It's not in your programming. It's just, heterosexuals are meant to live in absolutely horrible, miserable slavery to each other.
Okay, maybe. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned slavery because there has been rabbinical discussion about whether we are the servants or, okay, amongst Jews, or on whether they are the servants or slaves of God, and then decided, oh, it's just servants because servants is not, as high a status than slaves. But I think if God actually exists and did create us, then we would be slaves, right? And then more recently, I thought, actually, we are the slaves of our government. That's
Rock
the
Muncher,
reality.
Rock
We are
Muncher,
the slaves of our government.
tell Jordan I'm sending him the invite link directly. I'm not sending it to you because you're a fucking asshole.
And this is the reality that and if we marry, we become the slaves of our spouse who has all these expectations of us, and we have all these duties to them. Yes, of course, it's completely understandable that people would rather just fuck around and do all this, you know, you know, enter into contracts of mutual enslavement and do what our slave government wants us to do, and now our slave government can't be bothered to keep slaves because it can't be bothered to manage them. It's
Yes,
every
and they're too intelligent. And yes, okay, immigrants that come here don't need as much, they don't complain as much. Everything to them, everything's great. The fact that they have running water in their house is like
Yeah,
heaven.
they're
And
just grateful to be here, and they don't know their rights, and they can't speak much English. And it's like, yeah, actually, you want your servant not to be more verbally sophisticated than you. You don't want that. You want them to be,
no,
slightly slower, less educated, blah blah. In the same way that a man doesn't want his wife necessarily want his wife to be smarter than him, or if she is, she'd better rein it in, or he'll get nervous and unhappy. I mean, and then also in the same way that I'm sure even a cat lady who has a talking cat would not like the talking cat to be verbally more sophisticated than her, criticizing her, her home, her taste in clothes, her taste in soft furnishings, whatever.
why can't I? What's going on here? Why can't I am Jord. Oh, whatever. I don't know, all this fucking technology. The one thing that's annoying that I find I am getting old because I find it annoying to keep up on 25 apps. I just don't want to be on 30 apps a fucking day.
Okay, you know, George isn't serious. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he said he wanted to be on Karani Yule. He hasn't even arranged a date. I'll give him a reminder. Lewis said he wanted to, but he hasn't got back to me. It's like ADHD, I guess, all round. And I'm sure they won't say anything sensible. And really, I want to speak to older people, and that's why I'm so grateful to Naresh, for being such an unexpected supporter of secular Quranism. I mean, it's like he told us about his career history. He's not pretending. He's obviously a real person with a real life experiences, and he said, "Well, I have a daughter, and she can't be doing this sort of shit." And he also admitted that if he had been a bachelor, well, maybe he'd be as degenerate as, all the cuboids. Because, once you marry and have children, there's a lot of, pride into it. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to be the guy with a failed marriage whose kid is a delinquent, whose daughter's a knocked up slut. You kind of feel, oh my God, I have to protect these things.
Well, that's the other thing that's disgusting about heterosexuals is that you can't become competent people unless you marry each other. A heterosexual man cannot be a grown up unless he has to take care of a child that drains his energy. Gay men are able to be
It's the same for
sophisticated.
women. I mean, why do you think Jen is in arrested adolescence? Because she's not a mother. She thinks she can just sort of, do what she does and still be listened to because she's, some men might consider her attractive and that's good enough for her.
I know,
And
but
maybe
gay
it's
men don't
true
need
that,
children
that
to
if we
grow
if
up.
we if we don't if we don't marry and have the care of young, we will never grow up. And maybe we just need to be pushed into doing these things because if we think about doing it, then we won't feel like doing it anymore. Maybe we kind of want to be pushed into it and sort of 10 years later we find ourselves with 3 4 children and say, oh well, we can't leave our marriage because of the children, and maybe in the end that's better for us. But you, Vincent, you can escape the burden of bringing up children. You just have to concede the principle that, married couples are necessary to produce the next generation
Well, that's why I'm
without
saying,
being forced into marrying a woman and paying for her shit.
okay, well, this is something that, if
Look
I
on the
don't get
bright
ahead,
side.
then if I don't get somewhere with these artificial wombs, then yes, your way is going to happen. The fucking women are going to destroy everything. And,
You just
then
have to
men,
control them with the change of the moral and legal political system. You just need to be able to say, look, these are the rules now. You're not going to get away with being sluts, and you're certainly not going to get away with being unmarried mothers. And if you are an unmarried mother, well, then it's well, you can earn a living as a licensed prostitute or working in a licensed brothel in the red light district, and maybe you might get lucky and you'll find a client prepared to marry you, but we have to make the distinction, the social distinction now. So that, I think, makes it nice and easy for people to understand. Even dimwits, even learning deficient women will understand. Like, well, no, I'm not supposed to have sex with anyone I'm not married to, and because the wedding day is such a big deal, I will know when I've been married, right? I mean that's a simple rule, and it worked. And now we get all these little silly rules like, oh, we can do it if we like the person, if he asks nicely, or if we feel like it, or whatever. Vincent, I have to go.
okay,
All right, maybe
bye.
you'll let the others on or something, but it'll be fun.
Maybe.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see if Rock Muncher. Let's just post the link and see if anyone comes on. All right, here I'm posting the link, Rock Muncher. But I'm not going to stay here very long. Oh, I might not do this because I don't want some here. and ruining the stream. Let's see. I couldn't send the link to Jord. Okay, I'm going to give it about a minute or two and see if anyone shows up. But otherwise, I'm just going to get out of here. What time is it? 2:14. Hold on. I don't think anyone's going to come on. I tried posting the link to Jord. I could post it into the cube. I don't know if I want to post this in the cube. Okay, actually, I'm going to go because I have someone talking to me on another app. So anyway, thanks for coming. Bye.